Next on Relevant Radio, your favorite weekly appointment. It's time for the Nazareth Project. Faith, marriage, and family talk for the everyday Catholic. With your host, Lydia Lococo.
Good morning and welcome to the Nazareth Project. Faith, marriage, and family talk for the everyday Catholic. I'm your host, Lydia Lococo. Nice to see you, if only in my mind. I've had lots of things on my mind lately. You can only imagine. But I was thinking that there are times in our life, this is my new train of thought, that there are times in our life when God calls us to go somewhere specific and do something specific. He wants us to step out into faith, into a situation that to others might seem crazy or scary or actually more than we can handle. Most of the times, frankly, we miss out on these exciting opportunities because we're unwilling to move. It doesn't make sense. It's not the responsible thing to do. And we're also probably a little hesitant to let him move through us. So we have to be aware and attuned that the Lord places those tiny little whispers of desire in our hearts, and yet we stuff them down. We tell ourselves we're not up to the task. We convince ourselves that it's all in our heads. How many times have you done that? Have you convinced yourself that the Lord speaking to you was nothing but a daydream? Or, oh, that was a coincidence. Or, I couldn't do that. We have to know where the Lord wants to take us before we can figure out where to go, right? Well, actually, yes and no. The Protestant theologian Oswald Chambers, look him up. He is amazing. He's one of my favorites. He said, faith never knows where it's being led, but it loves and it knows the one who is leading. So if we listen intently and faithfully to the voice of God, and if we look with supernatural eyes all around us, and at the events in our lives, and at the people who come in and out of our lives, we will sometimes hear the Lord simply say, very quietly, go. Go. God has a specific plan for our lives and specific places he wants us to be, things he wants to accomplish through us, blessings for us, and they are literally and physically sometimes specific to our locations. So if we're going to learn how to serve him, we have to learn where to serve him. And that's a process. It takes discernment. God moves us. He leads us. And sometimes it's going to feel very disorienting. So yes, we all know that we have some general vocation. For example, I'm called to marriage and to have children. But more than this general calling, the truth is, we're going to learn how to fulfill our deeper call, what he requires of us when we go and serve him in the many different places throughout our entire lifetime. We gain more experience in every place we go and in every way we serve. And a good analogy for this is jobs, right? You learn and build on the last one. Sometimes God calls us to certain places to educate us. Sometimes he wants to prepare us for a later place he wants to take us. But perhaps a place that God is calling you to is as small and insignificant as a particular book club. Perhaps it's to enroll your child in a different school. But sometimes he has plans that really involve big stake and dramatic changes, big decisions. You could lose your job. You could lose your job today. You could be tempted to fall into despair, only to have a new opportunity open up for you. You've seen that happen. Perhaps he's calling you to more education, even though it would mean a lot more work and sacrifice on your part. But he's preparing you, and he needs you ready. Where is God calling you to go, or maybe stay, right now? What is he telling you to do? Listen. How is he asking you to serve him with your life at this moment? Sometimes his calls are seemingly simple. Yes, Lord, I can teach a CCD class. Or yes, Lord, I can go on that summer mission trip with the youth group, we think. Those are the things I can handle. Other things he calls us to do kind of sound out of my league. And more often than not, when he calls us to do these things, we begin to worry about what people are going to think. Sometimes I think these criticisms arrive from a place of real evil. People who tempt us not to reach out or work to do his will. We hear it. People who put you down, tell you you're not enough, good enough, smart enough, accomplished enough, well-dressed enough, rich enough. I can go on. Does this sound like I'm speaking from experience? It is. And yet it's so tempting to take that wide path rather than a narrow one. True service to the Lord is a combination of two things, faith and submission. And they work together. We don't have enough of one. We often don't have enough of the other either. It takes an incredible amount of faith to serve the Lord because most of the time when he says to go, we have no idea what's going to happen along the way. But if we obey God when he says go, your life is going to become more real than you could ever dream it would be. Sure, in the end, it may not always reflect the life you would have chosen for yourself, but it will be the one that counted far more than you ever thought possible. Where could your presence right now make the most difference? What is the one thing that you've dreamed of doing for almost as long as you can remember? He puts that desire there. What is the one thing that you know you absolutely must do before you die? What's the one thing you have to offer the Lord that will greatly impact his kingdom here on earth? Where could your presence make the most difference? Many times we make the mistake of thinking we have it all figured out before we can start serving God. We assume we have to have a perfect house and we have to graduate college and get the job before we're in a position to be used by the Lord, right? We have to be kind of totally together. Maybe the Lord doesn't use the comfortable. Maybe he uses those of us who are out there searching and moving. Because maybe he thinks we're the ones that are willing to take that leap and jump out of the boat. We are willing to go where he tells us with only our sandals and our staff. Today, our guest is someone who is intimately involved in my life because we both felt the call to move to something that was different and a little bit scary. After 7 years, I discerned the call to move into an area of mission and identity work for Catholic education. And now I found myself in all places as Vice President of Mission Integration for the largest Catholic K-12 school in the United States. But who would take the reins in the Archdiocesan Marriage and Family Office? I laid in bed at night and worried. Would God send someone? That would mean they would have to jump out of the boat. Would that person say yes? I am happy to share with you my dialogue today with a new successor as director of the Nazareth Project, Susan McNeil. If you want to catch a picture of her, go to johnpaul2center.org, go to our Nazareth Project page, and click on the recent version of our e-newsletter. You will see her beautiful picture there. We're going to take a quick break now, and when we come back, I'm going to be chatting with Susan. You're listening to The Nazareth Project on Relevant Radio. We'll be right back.
In today's car buying marketplace, the difference is the people inside the dealership. Uptown Motors sets the bar in customer service. Here's Uptown Motors' third-generation operator, John Pentler. John, tell us about Uptown.
We're a firm believer that business and customers can get along and do things in a mutual way here. I mean, what's good for our customers is good for our dealership. And what we really thrive on is having people come back time and time again. And the only way to make that happen is to do business in a way that it's beneficial for both sides. You know, the deal has to be right, the car has to be right. And you know what? In some cases, you come to a dealership and you have the fear that you're going to be talked into too much car, things that you don't need. And you know, really, what we look at is finding a mutual beneficial way to move forward on a car deal.
Buy a new or used car from Uptown and they'll donate $200 to the parish of your choice. This is not a gimmick. It's who they are. Stop in and see what customer service is all about. Uptown Motors, Catholic owned, Catholic proud. RelevantRadio.com, keyword Uptown.
We're back with the Nazareth Project on Relevant Radio. Here's your host, Lydia Lococo.
Welcome back to the Nazareth Project, Faith, Marriage, and Family Talk for the Everyday Catholic. I'm Lydia Lococo, you know that. But you don't know, possibly, the woman who is sitting across from me. I've been waiting for this day. I'm very excited to introduce you to her. I'm sitting across from Susan McNeil. Susan is most recently at St. Dominic Parish in Brookfield. She has 20 years of experience in parish ministry, and I also want to hear about her experience with hospital and hospice care, bereavement counseling. She's done amazing things in our archdiocese, but very under the radar. Susan, welcome.
Thank you so much.
The reason I've been waiting ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, to introduce you to Susan McNeil is because I'm very excited to say that as of November 1st, the new director, the second director of the Nazareth Project, is going to be Susan McNeil. I'm giving a clap for you, Susan. I know. I'm so happy you're here. And there's so much to talk about. This is going to be our way of introducing Susan to the whole Archdiocesan family, although she's very, very well known, but she will serve in a new capacity.
And I am so excited.
Are you? Mm-hmm. Even after the meeting we just had?
Even after the meeting we just had, my head's spinning a little bit, but I know half of everything I need to know. It's just the other half I'll have to fill in.
Well, I have quite a few questions, and we do a very short interview, so I'm going to get started. You're married, and you're a mother of 3.
I am. I have 3 children. The oldest is 24 and at UWM. The middle child, who actually currently just called me at 2 o'clock in the morning, who's sick away at school.
Super.
Is at UW La Crosse, and he's 20. And then we have a 5-year-old. People joke with me sometimes, why would you start over? And I always say, what else would we have been doing?
Hey, come on.
It is the best thing ever.
I look for Susan's postings on Facebook because his name is Seth.
He is.
And he is hilarious. He has a little bunny.
2
bunnies. And I always watch for his postings because the bunny has a better life than I do. That's all I want to tell all of you.
He's a pistol.
Well, Susan, here is the deal. Many people don't realize this, but 2 offices or 2 ministries that come out of the Nazareth Project, so along with marriage and family and parenting and anything with sexuality and natural family planning, are the Ministry to Separated and Divorced Catholics and Bereavement Ministry.
Correct.
And the Lord has sent Archbishop Listecki, someone who, in a miraculous way almost, really has the pastoral experience to minister specifically in those 2 areas. So could you just share your background? You have an MDiv from
St. Francis Seminary.
St. Francis de Sales Seminary. But share maybe what you would bring to separated and divorce ministry and bereavement ministry for the whole Archdiocese.
Well, shortly after I finished graduate school early on, I spent 7 years full-time as well as some additional time working in hospice and oncology, which was an absolutely wonderful experience. I've always said that people who are dying are prophets because they point to what's important in life. So it was just a wonderful, incredible experience doing that. So I've had a lot of opportunities to accompany people on their way to back home to the Lord. And it's really exciting for me to be able to integrate some of this into the Archdiocese. I've spent a lot of time over the years doing bereavement ministry in the parish and look forward to being able to share those skills across the diocese.
And for example, that means that if I'm a parishioner at St. Dominic's and a loved one dies, I call, I'm in shock, I call the parish, I make an appointment. I vaguely don't even remember who I'm making it with. And the person that opens the door, for 14 years probably, right? How long?
Correct, 14 years.
Is Susan McNeil. And these people are shattered. They're probably in shock. They don't know anything about, forget planning a funeral, right? And you really do walk with them. Is that correct?
Right. A lot of people today who come to experience of loss, because so many people are living older, we've had people in their 40s and 50s who have never experienced a loss in their lives. You know, they can be 40 years old and it's their grandparent for the first time. So really what we try to do is walk with people through that process and know that they're well taken care of by our parishes, that we'll walk with them through the entire process.
Wow. And as simple as that sounds, in many ways, I think I can speak from experience on the Nazareth Project, event planning and Nazareth days and et cetera, is a lot of work, but the particular calling for that kind of pastoral outreach takes a certain kind of person. And I've always said, I think the Holy Spirit, there's a Holy Spirit when you look in the rearview mirror of your life. And I think when Cardinal Dolan, then Archbishop Dolan, came in and really looked at the Archdiocese, he had a plan for the seminary and he had a plan for the Marriage and Family Office. He knew then what was happening on the coasts, on the East Coast and the West Coast. You got to remember this was like 7 or 8 years ago, and he was that was just then. We hadn't even heard the words new evangelization when he came. And he really knew that we had to work on the doctrinal aspects, as we still do, of evangelizing that marriage is between a man and a woman, that is lifelong and life-giving. And he created this office, and it's been a privilege and a pleasure to work in it. But I think now, and I want to speak to you about the Synod, as we turn a page, a happy page, the bankruptcy is almost over. Let's get to the business of ministry page for this archdiocese, for these 10 counties. I personally think it's a great time for me to, in a partnership, hand the baton and for somebody who really is called in a unique and singular way to pastoral concerns for people. And I would say if there's anything that I know when Archbishop Dolan left, he said there's 2 things I regret, and he regretted. One was Hispanic ministry. He always wanted to do more for Hispanic ministry. And the second one was Respect Life. You know, he went as fast as he could for 7 years, but he wished he could have done more. I would say my 2 would be ministry to separate and divorce Catholics. We just haven't done enough for that.
Mm-hmm.
It's a hard ministry. You know, it's there. Some people say up to 1/3 of the people in our pews, right, are affected by this. And then the other is bereavement ministry, because I've had Susan. Susan and I have a long partnership, and I brought her in before. And I know I just brought her in one morning to give a little training, and we had representatives.
It was a great morning.
You were amazing. 55 parishes sent people to be trained by Susan. 55 parishes on a random weekday morning. That tells you that's where the rubber meets the road, and people really meet Jesus Christ, right, in our church communities. Tell me about what involvement you had in the work and execution of the recent synod.
Oh my gosh. Well,
sit back, take your time.
Sit back and take a deep breath. I was kind of behind the scenes for a good deal of it. I did a lot of proofreading of papers along with Aaron over here. But from the very beginning, I led the parish synod session at our parish. Then I was involved in, I think it was 5 or 6 of the district sessions, and then facilitated at the synod itself. And it was an amazing experience. I loved being part of it. I think there are so many opportunities going forward for our church to grow, and I'm so excited for our future. I think that the recommendations and initiatives that have come out of it, there's just great potential. One of the things that I think I can safely say about myself is I'm passionately in love with the church. I love the church more than hardly anything in my life. I don't know if you even know I was a convert to the faith.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I came as
my mother was a convert.
Gotta love those converts. They take over the world.
They really take. They say, "Leader, get out of our way."
Absolutely, and I absolutely love the church. I wanted to be Catholic when I was 5, truly, and grew up to realize that. But I'm so excited about the initiatives. I think there's just amazing opportunities for us to reach out particularly to people who may have felt like they were on the margins because of divorce or separation, people who have experienced loss. We have lots of single-parent families out there, lots of people who are working far too many hours and feel just so pulled apart in today's world and so fragmented. So I see one of the key initiatives is helping families rebuild, in essence, of helping them focus on their faith and grow in their own discipleship.
And I forgot that you also wrote one of the 8 papers.
No, I didn't. You wrote the papers. I wrote the key initiatives in one of the areas.
Office of Social. Did you do the social justice?
I did the social justice key initiatives.
So you're all over. Your hand is just very as always beautifully under the radar in many of the synod initiatives. Let me ask you, and I tried to make this clear on the radio. So we have synod little s.
Mm-hmm.
But now we have a synod.
Big S.
Big OS. We have an extraordinary synod starting. Now, that is a very exciting time to take over our marriage and family office.
It is. And if you haven't had the chance to read the initial catechesis for that, Love is Our Mission, it's an excellent document. You can find it online. But it gives you a sense of where the bishops are heading in some of their discussions. So it'll be very interesting to watch what happens, which will be followed up by a second synod in February and culminating in the World Meeting of Families in Philadelphia next fall.
Right, and which is going to come like tomorrow.
It will.
And you all know, this is in September of next year in Philadelphia, that More Than Rumors, although
Our Holy Father will be joining us.
Confirmed, but Pope Francis is supposed to be at that World Meeting of Families. So I don't know. That is going to be, I'm not saying some big definitive proclamation is going to come out, but I think something is going to be unpacked in a different way. And his outreach and his pastoral heart is going to put a new and different emphasis. The church truth never changes. Nothing's going to change, ladies and gentlemen, and yet it will be new.
Right. As St. John Paul II said, new art or new methods, new expressions.
There you go. How do we evangelize to a shattered, fractured culture sometimes in the area of marriage and family? The beautiful truths of marriage and family, but in a way that they can understand.
Right, and it proclaims hope.
Right. So you get right on that, okay?
I will.
Boy, I'm jealous because
starting tomorrow.
That is a really tall order. I wanted to ask you about your current collaboration, and this is a good time to do a little PR for your soon-to-be boss, Rich Harder.
Yes.
You work on something called the Catholic ID Initiative.
Yes.
Well, many people don't know about it. We in the art, we think everyone hears about all this. You think, well, it's on Facebook, it's on everywhere. Tell people what it is and how they can access this.
Oh my gosh, Catholic ID has been an incredibly wonderful experience. It is a Lisa's over there smiling. It's been just this great discipleship building process. I'm getting tongue-tied.
You can be tongue-tied.
It's an initiative in the Archdiocese for discipleship and evangelization. And St. Dominic's, where I had been the last 14 years, was the pilot parish for this. And we've had a small group that's been in leadership training for a couple of months, and it's been life-changing for me personally. Yeah.
Really?
I went into it and I thought, okay, I went in with my work hat on.
Sure.
I'm going to do this. This is a great thing for my parish. I'm really excited about it. It really gives us some direction for our future. But I kind of went in with my work hat on. Okay, here I am. I'm leading this group. This is fantastic. And really wound up entering into it in a very profound way myself. And I can honestly say it changed my life.
So for the person out there, Catholic ID, what are these 1-minute, 1-minute videos?
Yes, be sure you check out the videos on Facebook as well as on the Archdiocesan website. I believe they're on YouTube as well.
And how often do they come out?
Every week.
Okay, every week we get a new Catholic ID video.
Yes.
A little boost in the arm. You can forward these. That's what I love about something that's short and sweet. Put it on Facebook and then send it out there. Right?
Yeah.
Let's cover
That's
the whole
a very
archdiocese.
easy way to evangelize is just share your faith on Facebook.
Super.
Or forward it in an email to somebody else. But keep watching for the Catholic ID groups. And if it isn't at your parish, start asking about it. Ask your pastor.
There you go. A little nagging never hurt anybody.
Never did.
That's a mantra at my house anyway. Well, here's my surprise for all of our listeners. I'm going to be, as I would always be every year, at Women of Christ. I wouldn't miss it for anything. Gina Lear is going to be our MC, and she's one of my good friends. But standing side by side with me will be Susan McNeil. So you get to meet the old, and I only mean that in a figurative way, the old director of the Nazareth Project, and you will also get to meet Susan McNeil. She will be at the Nazareth Project exhibit table at Women of Christ on November 1st. We are debuting her. I told her we needed a tiara. And Susan,
I have one.
Susan would love to meet each and every one of our listeners. So come down to Women of Christ. It's in West Bend. It's on November 1st. And we come meet Susan and welcome her as the new director of the Nazareth Project for the Archdiocese of Milwaukee, part of the John Paul II Center. Susan, thanks for being here.
Thank you.
It's been great. Don't forget to visit thenazarethproject.com. You'll have details of my talk with Susan, and we're going to take a break now. When we come back, it will be time for Mailbag and the Community Bulletin Board. So you're listening to The Nazareth Project on Relevant Radio. We'll be right back.
In today's car buying marketplace, the difference is the people inside the dealership. Uptown Motors sets the bar in customer service. Here's co-office manager Dar Sinoni. Dar, tell us about Uptown.
And working here 24 years, you actually see how they treat their customers not so much as just a customer, but more as a family member. They're very concerned about their well-being, their kids, what they're doing. And I think a lot of people like that, and I think that's why they come back. They like the family feeling. In 24 years, I've seen a lot of repeat customers. Basically, you end up knowing them by name, because you see them so much. So there's quite a bit of people that come in here over and over again and buy their cars.
Buy a new or used car from Uptown and they'll donate $200 to the parish of your choice. This is not a gimmick. It's who they are. Stop in and see what customer service is all about. Uptown Motors, Catholic owned, Catholic proud. RelevantRadio.com, keyword Uptown.
We are back with the Nazareth Project on Relevant Radio and your host, Lydia Lococo.
Remember, you can send me your questions by calling our dedicated voicemail, 414-758-2241. Just leave me your first name and parish along with your question, and you can also email me at nazarethproject@archmill.org. I am with a great group of women for our third annual Deschantel Silent Retreat. Please pray for us. We're going to be at the Redemptorist Retreat Center. If you don't know about the Deschantel Society and you are a woman who wants to pray for vocations, the Deschantel Society is for women, and it's a group sponsored by the Nazareth Project together with St. Francis de Sales Seminary. It's a great, great opportunity about 3 times a year for just prayer. Prayer at the seminary to pray for vocations. We usually have a priest from the seminary give a talk. We always have benediction. You have 2 opportunities. You have a nighttime where you can come and there's wine and cheese and time for fellowship afterwards, or in the morning afterwards, we have muffins and juice and coffee. So our silent retreat is going to conclude this Sunday, but I wanted you to take this opportunity to invite you, since we're totally filled up for the retreat, don't call me, but to invite you to our November Deschantel smaller event. It's Wednesday, November 19th at 7 o'clock p.m., or it's repeated Thursday morning, November 20th at 9 a.m. And bring a friend. All we ask of you, no money, no sign up, no volunteering, just praying for vocations. October 25th, Saturday, Mount Mary University, Souls for Catholic Education Walk. I know that they're expecting probably at least 10,000 people, because the last time I checked, which was a while ago, they had 8,000 registered. We're going to walk. It's going to be great. It's just for the morning. You're going to be home in plenty of time to do your afternoon. So go to register at CatholicSchoolsWalk.org. If you can't go, at least pledge a kid who's walking. Next November 1st, where are you going to be? If you're a woman, you're going to be at Women of Christ for sure at the Washington County Pavilion. You can still register, womenofchrist.net, and we're going to be standing there to welcome you. I want to introduce everybody who doesn't know Susan. I want to introduce you to the new director of the Nazareth Project. The last thing we want to talk to you about is the Encounter Young Adult Conference on Saturday, November 8th at the Cousin Center. It's an all-day event. Young adults from throughout the Midwest register at arisemissions.org. And now it's time for What Really Matters. Servanthood is faith and submission. And if you can't serve God on the way to where he's called you to go, you will never be able to serve him when you get there. Jonah said no to God's call, and guess where he ended up? You remember, floating, not to be gross, in a bunch of vomit in the belly of a whale. God will go to great lengths to get our attention. He'll do whatever he has to do to get our knees to bend. And sometimes when he says go and we refuse, he's going to chase us down until we change our minds. Is God chasing you right now? Where is he telling you to go or stay? Where is your place of service? Why aren't you there? Find that place and decide today to go. It will for sure be an adventure. Thanks so much for joining us today on the Nazareth Project, Faith, Marriage, and Family Talk for the Everyday Catholic. You can stay in touch with us on Facebook, Twitter, and on our website, thenazarethproject.com. You can leave me messages on our mailbag, 414-758-2241. Today's show and our past shows are available online at thenazarethproject.com. Next week, we have Father Luke Strand, Vocation Director About Town, coming to speak with us in anticipation of the National Vocations Awareness Week. You're going to want to tune in and see what he's got up his sleeve. It's always some crazy thing, isn't it? It's amazing and always something we want to support. I'm Lydia Lococo, God bless your day.
You've been listening to the Nazareth Project on Relevant Radio. Tune in next Friday morning at 9 for more faith, marriage, and family talk with Lydia. And for more information about today's guests and topics, visit thenazarethproject.com.